Welcome to my channel. My name's Bissy, and ahead of the Vampire Lestat, I'm going to run down the top 5 times Lestat absolutely lost his shit. If you haven't already, I'd really appreciate it if you subscribed, but if not, that's okay. Thank you so much for watching. I love you all. Okay, so with that said, let's get into the top 5 times Lestat absolutely loses it. Number 5. The one where Louis ghosts Lestat.
I vowed never to return again. I shut that night out of my mind, turned my attentions back to life as it was before.
Lestat was taken with Louis at first sight, and soon later they have a beautiful night of intimacy together. However, Louis slips out in the morning, and Lestat is left longing. Louis, full of guilt, shame, and confusion, basically ghosts Lestat. Effectively, he pretends that their friendship and that night never happened. Lestat called out to Louis telepathically, but Louis didn't go to him. And all the while, Lestat is seething, stalking and longing. Then Paul passes away. Louis is further preoccupied, and to Lestat, irresistible in his grief. At Paul's funeral, Lestat finally approaches Louis and confronts him. This is completely the wrong time, but Lestat is incensed. Lestat's call lasts for all of 10 seconds, and he loses it completely. Right there, in the middle of the procession, when Louis rejects him again. This was our very first glimpse of Lestat at his most helpless. Our first glimpse of how reckless, possessive, and obsessed he would become over Louis. Number 4. I heard your heart's dancing. Now, Lestat does have a very healthy sexual appetite. He and Louis, whilst in their honeymoon phase, were more than enough for each other, it seemed. But Lestat is insatiable. I'd like to dive deeply into Lestat and his desires, so if you'd like to see a video on Lestat, his appetites, his cheating, comment lover below and I'll get onto that for you. But for now, Louis is a vegetarian, and Lestat has met and started his 25-year affair with Antoinette. To their credit, Louis and Lestat do have the conversation about it. However, it's typical Lestat. Veiled, layered, and about 65% honest. But they do talk. At the end of that conversation, it's agreed that as long as Louis comes home to Lestat, he too can have his so-called fun. And very quickly after that agreement, Louis has said fun with an old flame, a soldier, a man in uniform. Now, despite their reluctant agreement, Lestat cannot stand this. Louis is his. Lestat does not want to share him with anyone, even if it was only for that one night. We see Lestat watching Louis and this soldier in the club. He's with Antoinette, mind you, but his eyes are glued to Louis. We learn later that Lestat followed Louis and watched the entire scene, like a creeper.
I'm a lot. I'm not perfect.
I knew you were there.
Yes.
You watched the whole thing like some creeper. I heard your heart dancing.
They do see each other later that morning as they get ready to sleep. But Lestat, in that moment, holds his tongue. Again, he is seething. The jealousy, the anger, simmering as they sleep, right until it boils over, and Lestat retaliates by inviting an entire troop of men in uniform to their home. Louis likes a man in uniform, right? Right? So why not have 15? Lestat is a mess by the time Louis returns home. But Lestat's act is still holding. Right until Louis says the quiet thing.
Jealous?
Yes. I don't like sharing.
What about Antoinette? This is not a life! That's because you took my life!
And Lestat loses it.
I heard your heart dancing!
Louis protests that the counter didn't mean anything, but Lestat just will not accept it. The fear that Louis might have affections for another man is overwhelming. Not for the first time or the last, Lestat has overreacted out of terror. He's terrified of losing Louis. His emotions take the driving seat and they drive him mad. Number 3, finish the game. No one gets to Lestat like Claudia gets to Lestat. I literally mean no one.
Back, always back to back.
Bach is beyond you. You irritate me. Your very presence irritates me.
But when Claudia refuses to finish her victorious chess match, well, Lestat just explodes.
Move your pawn, finish the game.
Good night, Lestat.
Finish the game!
Good night, Louis.
Spoiled, selfish, thankless, disagreeable, obnoxious, repellent, unkind, spoiled to the core!
My goodness. And all the while, Louis turns up the volume on the radio and tries to zone out the vicious scene that's unfolding in front of him. Not completely unlike many depictions we've seen of unhappy housewives in the 1930s and 40s. Number 2. You're just gonna leave me?
Louis.
Louis! Louis! 1,000 nights of sulking and the first sight of her, you were just gonna up and leave me!
What can I say? In both accounts of this event, everyone acknowledges the pain Lestat went through during those 7 years without Claudia. In Louis' telling, with the assistance of Claudia's diaries, Louis and Claudia fall immediately back into speaking telepathically, freezing Lestat out. Lestat is screaming at Louis.
1,000 nights of sulking and the first sight of her, you were just gonna up and leave me!
He's trying desperately to get Louis to at least look at him. Before this, he employs juvenile tactics to demean Claudia.
She was a destitute little girl, destined to live an inconsequential little life.
And when he's scared, he ridicules.
But Louis' mind seems to be already made up. His actions just need to catch up. Now, this is just my interpretation of the scene. Lestat is in utter disbelief of what is happening. His worst nightmare is playing out, right in front of him, and he loses it. But he doesn't go for Louis initially. No, he goes for Claudia. In that moment, to him, she is the reason that this is happening. She is the root of their issues. Louis has threatened to leave Lestat before, but it's because of Claudia and her return that Lestat just may lose Louis forever now. Now again, everything I've just said is just my opinion, and it's my interpretation of the show. And it's very, very okay if we disagree. But as Louis defends Claudia, Lestat's hands find another target. And number 1, it all came loose. Lestat loses all restraint.
7 years of compromise, denial, it all gave way.
We see more from Lestat's perspective, the final trigger, so to speak, that led to him lifting Louis 2 kilometers in the air and dropping him to the ground.
You're leaving with her? You're gonna leave me?
I'm gonna take this hand here and wrap it around that scrawny neck of yours. And I'm gonna...
Now, I've stated many times, but for anyone who is new to my videos, I want to make it crystal clear that I'm not excusing Lestat's actions. I do not believe there is ever an excuse for DV. Lestat explains the reasons he lost control. And Sam Reed's acting and the writers of the show made me listen to their explanation. But the explanation does not excuse what the character did to Louis. Lestat lost it, like he had never lost it before. Was it because his fears and emotions had never built up for so many decades as they had with Louis? Was it because Lestat could see that this was the end and there was nothing left to hold on to? Was he free-falling emotionally, as Louis free-fell physically after Lestat dropped him? We've heard Louis' version. We've heard Claudia's version via her diaries. We've heard Play Lestat's version via Louis, Armand and Sam's script. But will we hear Lestat's version in season 3? Honestly, I don't think we will, although I'd really, really like to. I keep remembering that showrunner Roland Jones stated that they won't be going over scenes that they've already covered. And to be fair, they have covered this scene in seasons 1 and 2. So, We'll see. So, although Lestat could be described as dramatic, a fair assessment in my opinion, Lestat losing his is often scary, even as a viewer. Well, it is for me at least. Now, I've spoken in a previous video about my real life relationships, so I won't go over it here again, but Lestat can be scary sometimes. He's passionate, he loves deeply, but he also cuts deeply, with both words and his actions. So with the release of Daniel and Louis's book, and the way that he's been portrayed to literally millions of readers, how might we expect Lestat to respond? Well, from what we've seen so far, his response is going to be the biggest retaliation yet. As reluctant as he may be to be doing this interview with Daniel, Lestat is going to lose it. I cannot wait to see it unfold, and mostly, I can't wait to see what's on the other side for him. Follow along with me by hitting subscribe and being sure to like my video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next one. Thank you. Bye.